Okay, so Asami already said that animations might be used for things like making introductions to courses. Nelson, what do you think? What other sort of uses can you conceive of for this medium, for animations? Coming to this workshop today, what were you sort of thinking about in terms of how this could be used?
Well, it certainly makes it more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
You really draw some attention from the students.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also thinking about something you can use it to explain certain grammar points that require kind of space, like a distance from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Like locations of things.
Maybe giving and receiving.
Yeah, you're giving and receiving, yeah.
Okay, so illustrating specific grammar concepts, perhaps also directionality, right?
Yeah.
Which is important in Japanese. Maybe along the lines of teaching grammar, perhaps even vocabulary teaching. Because again, this is a medium that simulates or reflects motion. This would be particularly suitable for prepositions. I don't know much about Japanese, or hello. I don't know enough about Japanese to. Do you have prepositions in Japanese? Because you do in Italian.
Yeah, we have postpositions.
Postpositions, right? There's postpositions in English too. You knew that? A long time ago.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
We don't have a whole lot of them. There used to be a lot more of these in the past, but the few that are remaining are still there. Okay, but yeah, prepositions: above, under, behind, right? And there's certain languages differentiate between static and active prepositions.
Oh yeah.
Does Japanese do it too?
Yeah, I mean, we have particles that is like postpositional, but yeah, same as preposition in English.
Right. Well, in inflected languages with cases, that is taken care of by the case system. But you do differentiate between the cat is under the table or the cat is going to hide under the table, right? Okay, so we're already starting to see some of the things that we can do with animations. Alessandra, when you were walking to this workshop today on animations, what did you think about? Like what ideas do you have in terms of how these things can be used?
So it's, I think that like the software, the tool you presented about the strips, the comics, I see this animation in building stories, storytelling, and especially with in Italian we have this difficult structure, which is the use of passato prossimo and perfetto, which are two different kinds of past. That one is for descriptions, more for description, and for action, continuous action in the past.
Okay.
And the other is for an action finished in the past. It's a
Oh.
bit difficult for them, so I think that.
So perfective, imperfective.
Yeah,
aspect,
so
sort
it's
of.
okay. So, for example, so it's yesterday what was a beautiful day. So you use it was a beautiful day. It was sunny. Many people were on campus, and you use the same for a finished action. So in Italian, we describe this action in the past, this situation in the past. So ieri era una bella giornata. You have a different tense, and this creates a lot of problems with students, especially elementary 1, elementary 2. But it continues.
Okay, so this would be useful to
yes,
illustrate the
because you
difference.
can create, you see, for example, in with the comics or with the animation, you can create a setting, and then you have to describe. Okay, the weather was beautiful and it was sunny. The birds were chirping in the sky.
Okay.
You describe, and then you use passato prossimo for the action. What really happens happened in the past. This is my idea.
Okay. Very good. Yes.
No, it's okay.
Okay. So, and you know, why should we bother about? Why should we bother with this tool, with this medium of animation? We already started sort of talking about how this could be used in terms of very specific examples, right? Vocabulary, grammar, grammatical tenses, aspects, prepositions, so on and so forth. I would like you to take all this into account, but sort of think about it in terms of a teaching goals. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with the dichotomy between the teaching goals and the learner goals, but it is essentially what it sounds like. So teaching goals is what they describe everything that you want to accomplish as a teacher in class, versus learning goals would be something that, or would be all the things that you want your students to be able to do, to be able to know at the end of each class unit, right? So let's think about some of the teaching goals that animations can help us with realizing, and to that end, I'm gonna send us all over to Mentimeter, our favorite tool, which I will then, do I need to log in? I do need to log in. Okay. But as I'm working on this, okay, let's just save it really quick. No thanks. So, how can animations facilitate instruction? And rather than thinking about specific examples, which is okay, try to think more more abstractly. Okay. Here's the code to use when you're logging to menti.com, and just like we've done in the past, try to brainstorm, type whatever you think the appropriate response would be to this prompt, and as you're typing, these things will appear in front of us on the board, and then we'll try to discuss it all together and see what how these different observations points cohere. Save time in explaining concept of the grammar. Perfect. Okay, so grammar explanation, yes. Can be used for conversational practice. Well, that's interesting. Okay. The use of the images facilitates the explanation of vocabulary structures, and I think images and motion are even more effective. Yes. Better understand certain grammatical structures, showing a model of interactive conversations. Okay. Let me take 1 or 2 more minutes. Very effective to build stories, and new storytelling is huge, yes. Okay, as you're typing these up, I'm going to start engaging with your comments and contributions as we are discussing this, because I would like for this to be a discussion. If anything else comes up, if there's anything else you can think of, type it up. Okay. Okay. So save time and explain concept of the grammar. Sure. One thing that I'm thinking about when I hear this, when I'm reading, okay, explaining grammar, I'm thinking about inductive grammar instruction. So in other words, giving your student a situation, right, that is carefully scaffolded and sort of also supplied with a relevant dialogue that then points out certain grammatical features like the tenses, right? But rather than giving them the explanation of, okay, in this particular situation, when these, and this, and this requirement is met, this is when the time is used, try to have them figure out these rules on their own. And this is a perfect way to illustrate certain uses. It can be used for conversational practice. How?
Well, I normally have like a sample conversation.
Mm-hmm.
and students sort of like read it first and then they try to create their own.
Mhm.
But if we have like animation and sound, I can just show them. And then also we can do like more interactive thing.
Okay, so instead of having them enact certain conversations and dialogues in front of the class, you can have them make an animation of that, right? And what's sort of related to it, and I think where the strength of animations resides. Why is there 7 people? Oh no, it's 7 comments, sorry. Where the strength of animations, right, is that you can easily incorporate this cultural layer to it. Something that is not very easily done when you have them enact dialogues in the middle of the classroom, right? You can have them research, or Google their backgrounds, different objects. You can then, have them use these objects in a way that is culturally specific, that is also in line with the target forms that you want them to focus on. Okay, kanji, Chinese character teaching, which is again something that you can easily implement in animations by captions, right? The use of the images facilitates the explanation of vocabulary. Okay, perfect. So this goes back to, it is related to this notion of inductive grammar instruction, but here the emphasis is on multimodality, right? So in other words, vocabulary does not need to be arrived at by translation into English. You can simply have illustrations, right? Which bypasses vocabulary text-to-text translation and allows you the opportunity to incorporate other modes of instruction information. Help students better understand certain grammatical structures. We kind of talked about it already. Very effective. Story building. Yes, story building. Actually, the other day, Sonam, who teaches Tibetan, and Sonam was supposed to be here yesterday as well. We were talking about how to enliven and sort of make it more exciting to engage with different video materials. And one of the ideas that we came up with was, why don't we have them watch certain videos that are selected for the appropriate level of the proficiency, and then rather than having them finish the story, have them make an animation that reflects how this story might possibly end, right? Which goes back to, of course, or relates to storytelling. It allows them the opportunity to use the different grammatical forms that a particular unit features, lets them play with the vocabulary, and then as they're building these animations, they can also do that and communicate in the target language.
So I think that animation is important for the active usage. So they use the animation to create something, because I think that the animation is very difficult, at least in my experience, for comprehension exercises. For example, if I show the students a movie, piece of an Italian movie, without captions, and so through the expressions, through the gestures, the setting, they can figure out what's happening in the movie. So they can try to guess what's happening in a very short part of the movie. If I use a cartoon, for them it's much more difficult, because they cannot read the lips. They cannot. They can't read the lips. That you can. But you can. I'm sorry. You can voice over though. So it's. But it's the movement of the mouth doesn't correspond to the. No, it's not synchronized. It's not synchronized. It's I tried this. I did this experiment. So with the cartoon, with the so they are lost. Which is a very good observation that you've made right now, because just like with everything technology related or any kind of technological tools, one must be vigilant, one must be careful about whether this is something that we indeed want to use, and what are the possible disadvantages of
of these platforms, and one would be, in case of Italian, that is very expressive, where a
Yeah.
lot of information is conveyed suprasegmentally, sort of over the language, discursively, through gestures, through the mimics, and that's not something that animations would necessarily be suitable for. So this is one of these considerations that one needs to keep in mind. Another thing that I was thinking about is how animations are actually very good in practicing schema. Are you familiar with the schema theory? Schema are, in long story short, they are these cognitive representations of certain situations, right? So let's say if you go into a barbershop, your visit to a barbershop would be a schema that is circumscribed within a certain location, and then also where there's a certain register that you can expect, there's a certain range of vocabulary that you are expected to use and to understand, right? So this is something that is perfect for that kind of practice because, again, they're usually very short, they're very specific, very limited, and very useful for that kind of interaction, for that kind of remembering. Anything else that you can think of?
Yeah, related to that, I was going to type it up, but related to that, I think we can kind of show students or help students become aware of more like cultural cues and manners.
Mm-hmm.
Something to do with this pragmatics, speech acts, and how they request and let's think about the
Well, Japanese pragmatics is super complex.
Particularly, we can show a kind of teacher figure and student figure, or the student figure and student figure.
Mm-hmm.
When you interact with your friends, and when you interact with friends, and when you interact with the teacher, you have to use this in different registers.
Right.
And how you can kind of show respect. Something like that.
Mm-hmm. So this would be right. So this would be perfect for this kind of illustration. Even if it's simulated, even if it's schematic, I think it would still be a lot more salient than again having them reenact certain scenes in front of the classroom. Okay, so we already started talking about ideas for specific projects and specific things that we can do with animations. Is this? So now I want you to take it one step further and think, brainstorm, discuss together, the four of us, more sort of specific ways in which we can apply animations, right? There's another survey that I have right here. So at this point, your Mentimeter screens should have switched to this. Did they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So take a couple minutes to think about examples, specific examples of animation projects for vocabulary, for discursive features, for register, for grammar, for culture. I don't know, what have you. Just spill it all out and then we'll discuss it. So the course introductory video would be one idea. But other things. And it's sort of always really tempting to kind of think about these projects, these tools that we're discussing here as something to do at the end of the section, at the end of the unit, maybe at the end of the semester. What I'm wondering about is whether it is possible and effective and time efficient to think about projects and little mini exercises that you can do even within class, even within specific short-term units that you won't necessarily, neither you nor your students will have to put a lot of time into. if it's not letting you post more than one answer, that is fine. We can simply start with this, and then you guys can take your own notes. Create a setting where they can use and practice vocabulary, action verbs, run, eat, lend, borrow. Have students make a short video. Okay, this is perfect. To explain specific grammar points, students can make their own animation or add narration to pre-made video. How?
Like I can make the video
Mhm.
by myself
Mhm.
and ask students to explain like what's going on in the video.
Perfect, yeah. Very good. Create a setting where they can use and practice vocabulary. Alessandra, was it you?
Yeah.
What kind of setting?
For example, so we finished the unit about shopping. So
Mhm.
even in class, they can create a little setting with the store with different objects or items they can buy or so. So I'm thinking about the elementary level. So it's
Okay.
vocabulary.
So have them, let's say, when I think about Italian shops, I think about your butcheries and meat shops where, you know, these big chunks of meats are hanging in the window.
Maybe just a supermarket, so where you can find many different.
Or that, yeah.
So this is because these shops, stores are disappearing in Italy. Actually, so it's a creation of the Italian. Most of the people go to the supermarket now.
Right,
So
right.
even if it's nice to have this vocabulary about this.
But which I think you're making a very important point here, and that is that one needs to, when it comes to you know, teaching culture, one needs to make sure that whatever it is that you're teaching them is going to be relevant, right? So in other words, it probably doesn't make a lot more sense, much sense to have them, you know, engage and build and design scenes in old school fashioned meat shops if those are disappearing, if chances are that they will never go to one, right? It's a lot more effective to probably have them simulate shopping in a supermarket, right? Which is perfect. Yeah, this is exactly what I was hoping to get out of this. Okay, we talked about that. There's grammar, finishing stories or designing different endings to stories, to videos, creating course introductory videos as well. Anything else?
You didn't really kind of submit.
Oh, it's okay. What is it?
I was gonna say that I kind of thought about create only the beginning of the conversation. Have students, you know, to finish the rest of them. Just, you know, have students, you know, kind of guess what do you think? What do you think is regarding how the conversation proceeds and how the conversation ends? And just
Perfect.
set up the kind of see either supermarket or barber shop or something. The situation is here, there's the characters here, and they start a conversation. But how do you think the conversation will end? Something like that.
Yeah, and have them work in pairs and threes on that, and sort of set up a dialogue like that. What I'm thinking about, which is along the lines of what you were saying, is maybe have like an assignment where all of them build a story together, where each student is, let's say, responsible for designing, developing a minute of an animation, and you have 10, 12 students in class. You as an instructor can start with like a minute, and then each student creates then another bit of the story for homework, using the target forms and the vocabulary that you want them to focus on. Okay. Speaking of students, we talked about how this medium benefits us as instructors. Let's think about now, switch gears a little bit and think about how this could benefit our students actually. So in other words, what are the learning goals here? What are the things that we hope our students would be able to do as a result of working with these animations. And this sounds awfully close to the teaching goals, but it is slightly different, and the difference is important. Okay, so I don't have a survey for this, I don't have a poll for this, just take 2 minutes literally and think about how this could be beneficial to your students. What kind of skills you hope that they would acquire, derive from this kind of work?
Thinking about my idea, my project idea,
Mhm.
of having students make their own drama explanation video.
Mhm.
So that's by using those animation and creating something, they are involving more actively to the learning, right? And
Okay, so critical engagement with the material.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, and then by trying to explain, by trying to teach something, I think that's when you learn the most.
Teaching is learning.
Yeah.
Okay. Teaching, so perhaps a, more, or perhaps deeper understanding. Of the target language. How about, sort of related to this, in order for them to be able to explain something, they need to obviously understand it, but they also need to be able to interpret it, and they also need to be able to summarize it, right? And so those would be the skills that they are practicing through this medium. Interpretation. And summary. Oops. What else do we have? Written skills practice. Practice of communicative skills. I'm tempted to say that this would be useful for the practice of or development of written skills that are used in online environments, like chatting. Or largely chatting, really. But then I don't really think that this would be congruent with the register that we use in simulated dialogues, as Noah mentioned. So perhaps it's not a good idea. Anything else? I do have a list here that I can share with you later in the interest of time, because we still need to see the actual thing. But this, I think, is a good start. For our learning goals list. Creative thinking, obviously, is a pretty useful skill to have, and this is one of the skills, along with the just ability to make animations, which is something that is sought after. Not just in a foreign language classroom, but also outside of it in professional settings. Like this might be something that they might be using when they're done with your class too, either in other courses or in professional capacities. Okay, anything else?
Well, since we're gonna have students create their own, and we can help them develop more autonomy.
Perfect, autonomous learning. That is also an excellent point.
The students take more active role.
So autonomous learning, and almost always with that motivation,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The more motivated students
Yes.
are, the more autonomous their learning becomes. There's a positive correlation between those two. I was also thinking about a dual coding theory that Pavio wrote about, where he stipulates, or she, I don't remember exactly, where it is stipulated that it is a lot more effective to learn via 2 channels as opposed to just 1 channel, which again animation is perfect for, because you do have the written output, you have the visual cues, and you also have the oral cues as well, if you so choose, if you want to voice over it, right? So that has been shown to be a lot more effective than just, sort of learning through 1 channel, which is the modus operandi in comic strips. Okay, so I have 2 tools that I have played with, that I researched. One is Powtoon, the other one is Animaker. There are only good news that I have about these. Actually, there are more, obviously, but I chose these 2 because they're most appealing to me. The good news is that once you learn how to use one, you kind of know how to use all of them. The differences are literally in the layout of the designer, the editor. But that's kind of it. So I'm gonna show you how to use Powtoon. Okay. And obviously the URL is powtoon.com. So as I am logging in and opening it up, I want you guys to really quickly create an account. Just like with everything else that we do here, this is free. It's available from your browser. You don't have to install anything on your computer. There are different levels of pricing that you can engage in depending on what it is that you're trying to do with your animations. Of course, today we're going to look at the very, very basic level. So as you guys are creating your accounts, I'm just going to log in really quick. And there's already a Powtoon, or a short animation that I created. No, don't save it. Right here. Let's see if that loads. Okay. So, maybe a few more minutes to log in. Let me know when you're in there. Oh yeah, it's going to send you a verification email. The interface is super easy. The learning curve is, I think, 10 minutes. It is really, really intuitive. In order to, take a glance and sort of fully realize all the functions and the customization features that this thing has, it might take you a little bit longer, but the basics are really, really simple. Okay, let me show you what I did. It took me, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes to make this, and this is without me having any background in ever working with Powtoon before. Okay, it's in German, and it is an introduction of super basic family vocabulary. That's it. Hello, I'm Margaret. This is my husband, Thomas, I think. Leave me alone, Margaret. That's kind of it. Of course, you can do a lot more with it. This was sort of a super quick demo. What I'm going to do now is kind of show you really quickly how to interact with this. Although there's a very good tutorial as well. Okay, is everyone in there?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so on top of the screen you should see something like this, where it gives you a few choices. The first one is when you know exactly what you want to do, it's going to send you to an editor where you start from scratch. If you have a story in mind, it's going to be a little bit more filled in, and then if you need some inspiration, it will take you to the pre-made templates. Okay, and you can choose between work, education, personal. So we are in education, and we are teachers. And here are some templates that we can, begin with. Again, teacher introduction is one of the things, one of the templates that we can use to repurpose for our own needs. What I'm going to do actually is go back and click here, so I know exactly what I want to do. And this is a blank canvas, and this is sort of, I think, the best way to show you the basics of the functionality of this thing. So you can choose the different looks. I'm going to go for a cartoon. Okay, and we see. Actually, why don't we watch this together?
Today I'm going to show you everything you need to know to create an awesome Powtoon in just a few minutes. There's a couple of different ways to get started, including using our storyboard tool and starting completely from scratch. But the fastest way to make a Powtoon with a professional look and feel is to modify one of our ready-made templates. You can scroll through the library, or you can filter the templates by your specific need right here. I'm going to use this 5 pieces of advice template. Just click Use, and your template loads up just like that. Once it loads, you can click through your slides in the Slides panel over here. You can go into any slide, move as you want. Customizing text is a snap. Just click any field you want to change. Say, marketing team, so it'd be like that. Choose your font, size, and text color over here. You'll want to go slide by slide, customizing the text to fit your needs. Once all your text is customized, it's time to think visually. If you want to swap one character for another, just click the character and click Swap. You can choose from any other character here. And what about objects? It's the same process. Select the object you want to replace, click Swap, and let's say I wanted to use a car, right? So I click Transport and scroll through, boom, it instantly swaps. Now let's say that's not the kind of car I really wanted. So I can just use the search bar up here, car, and here's a cool one, bam, instant swap. Okay, so we can review what we've made so far by clicking the play button down here. Oh yeah, alright, so let's say you love this template, but you want to add a totally new slide. No problem. Just click this button. And now you have an empty slide. As soon as it loads,
it's kind of like a slideshow, but animated.
Scenes menu over here to choose one of our ready-made scenes, which are done for you layouts. The design, the characters, the text fields are all there for you to customize. Click it, and it's yours. Boom, right there on your screen. Fantastic. Now let's say, hey, this background isn't working for me. You just click Background and choose from any background you want. Locations, colored backgrounds,
you can also
upload
your own backgrounds.
You can also upload your own image to use as background from your computer or from your favorite social platform here. Or if you just want to use a plain color, you can select that here. Moving down the list, let's say I want to add a character. So we get this message, turn timeline on. What's this all about? Let's turn the timeline on and find out. Your timeline allows you to set time on stage and enter and exit effects for any character or object on your stage, as well as adding or removing time from the slide here. This triangle is called the playhead. Basically, with the timeline on, you have full control over everything on stage. Now, I can go back to the character section of the library, choose one of the characters. I like this guy here. And let's say I want him to enter the stage at 1 second. So I place my playhead at 1 second, and I can drag the guy right on the stage. We see here our character is set to enter to the right, but we can choose any of these other effects instead. Now, let's find an object. Let's say a light bulb, because he's got an idea. There we go, I like that one. Bam! Our character's got a great idea with a light bulb. Here's what's important. You want to get the character and the object moving together, which is where the timeline comes in so handy. So here we go. He's entering towards the right, exiting to the left. He's on stage from 1 second to 3 seconds. And we would want the light bulb to do the exact same thing. Enter to the right, exit to the left. 1 to 3, click play. Bam, that was perfect. One last thing to cover here in the studio, with all the tools up here at the top. You can rename your Powtoon right here and save manually here. You can preview your Powtoon from start to finish using this preview button. And if you ever need any help, you can always click this help button to access tutorials, reach our help center, and more. And this button here, this is where the magic happens, the export button. If you're happy with your Powtoon and you're ready to share it far and wide, click export. You can upload directly to your favorite social channels here, or publish it directly to your My Powtoons page. Just follow the wizard, set your preferences, and before you know it, you're done! Boom! Now you know the basics of how to create an awesome Powtoon, and it's fun. You can do this. We believe in you. In fact, you're learning a super awesome new skill set that can open doors. As soon as your Powtoon is ready, show it and share it with everyone you know. They're gonna love it.
Okay, so it was a short intro. I wanted to go over this by myself, but we have about 5 minutes left. So I figured that this would be probably a lot better introduction to the platform. A lot of it is going to be just tinkering and seeing what it does and how sort of different things fall into place. A couple things that I need to point out is that at the basic level, many of the features are going to be blocked out for you. So if there is a situation or there's anything that you want to use, but it is not available to you, you can either opt to purchase a license from them, or you can write me and I will reach out to them and see if we can make an arrangement for them to allow you to play with this tool for free or at a very low cost. There is a follow-up activity that I wanted to do with you, but we do have 5 minutes left. So with that in mind, I'm still going to start the activity, and if you guys want to work on it, I'm going to stick around and do it with you. And if you need to go, you're welcome to do that too, okay? And if, as always, you know where to find me, and I would be happy to assist with any questions or development ideas and issues. So the activity is this. I found a clip from a Bollywood action movie that I'm going to play for you. And there's very little dialogue in it. It's mostly action. What I want you to, what the idea that I had for the activity was for you to work together or individually to come up with an alternative continuation, alternative ending to this clip. Okay? So I'm going to play it for you now, and if you want to, you can come up with an animation for it here, or working it at home, or... So that was my clip. And, oops. And what I was hoping to do now is to work on an ending, but since we are at the end of the workshop, again, I will leave it up to you if you want to stay or not. And if you don't, that would be all.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Prego.
Thank you.